Church, I think, is the one who said he's bluffing. He's like, no, he ain't bluffing. He means it. And like great acting in that scene. Stephen Lang's maybe best role.
Yeah, he's so good. And I liked the precursor, Thomas Hayden Dirtbag in this. So he had he's in another movie with Billy Zane. They're in Demon Knight together too.
Right. And I think that Thomas Hayden Church, when he made Sideways with Paul Giamatti, and he read the script, he's like, I'm just going to be the same guy I was in Tombstone.
Just a cad.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I love that. And so he knows a little bit about music, and it's called Chopin. He gets showed up. Oh, that's fun. She showed up with Chopin. So two questions left. David Serrano. John Levengood, has anyone taken Doc Val Kilmer up on being their Huckleberry, and what was the outcome? So Ringo took him up, right?
Well, no, Ringo didn't want to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so no one has.
And he even said to Doc Holliday, I was only fooling. And then Doc says, I wasn't.
Yep. Oh, man. Yeah, so no one has. You don't want him to be your Huckleberry in this regard. Not like a friend, like not like Tom Sawyer, not like Brad Renfro, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Tom and Huck.
I mean, I'll bet that in Doc's timeline there were a lot. I don't know if a lot means 5 or a lot means 25, but I'll bet that there were a lot, enough for him to get quite a reputation as a very fast gun, right? It's just that they're dead. And as we unfortunately learned from the judge at Wyatt Earp's dismay, well, after Johnny Ringo, Johnny Ringo, after Bill shot the marshal, he says, can't have a murder without a witness.
Yeah. That was such a slimy move by Curly.
God. That is when he goes from being like, I can understand why you would turn to organized crime in such a, kind of a wild time, to he's just evil.
Even in the beginning, he's like, well, you killed 2 of my cowboys, so we're going to pay back, like a mafia hit.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, he just killed them. But he was high on opium. Does that give him any leeway?
He was really high on opium, but just it's not like he didn't say anything when they were taking him out of the jailhouse the next morning.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
And his fellow cowboys were even talking smack. They're like, just because you're wearing that badge right now, don't mean you're right. Like, so Bill could have said right there, he could have apologized somehow. That could have been his one semi-redeeming moment, to just know that they're on other sides of major points of view in this world. And instead, he just kept walking with his opium hangover. Big
time opium hangover. He's sweating that day. And they live in Phoenix. And they're wearing wool. All right, last question. But this is the question that got answered. So Neil Mitchell asked, what did Johnny Ringo call Doc Holliday? Linger or Lunger? Or something else.
Lunger.
And then, Lunger. And then, oh, my bad. I knew Lunger. Jeez Louise. And then William Cook answered. He's like, that was a slang term that people would insult people with tuberculosis. So they answered that.
Yeah. It's funny. I saw that comment, and then I saw the movie again before we sat down here, and I caught something that I actually never caught before. And that was when Ike is at the bar and Doc Holliday collapses. And then they take him out. He's talking to the bartender. He says, what's wrong with him anyway? And the bartender even says he's a lunger.
Yeah. There's throwing slang out there for these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the first time I ever caught that. I didn't even know that was a term back then for folks with TB.
Yeah. That was kind of fun to learn. Like, I learned some fun stuff with these questions, John. These were good. These are good questions. And now, all right, so we have so much more to talk about. I guess I just want to, in the beginning when they show up to the wedding, I love, though, when Michael Biehn just behold the pale horse, and the man who sat on him was death. Like, I love that, from Revelations quote that he does. Has there been, maybe, all right, so Gary Busey, right, in Lethal Weapon, he's not the main bad guy, but he's the main the most, you know what I mean? He's not the main bad guy, but he's the toughest bad guy, right?
Right.
And then you have Total Recall, Michael Ironside, kind of. But I don't know too many more villains that I like more than Ringo. He's not the main guy, but have you ever liked, I know this is putting you on the spot, but have you ever liked a kind of a bad guy who isn't the main bad guy the most?
That guy who's the main bad guy.
I like Mad Dog from The Raid. Oh my gosh.
I actually did. Oh, I loved watching that guy fight, but I didn't necessarily like him as a villain. All he did was fight.
I would want him to be a third in command, and then I'd take Ringo as my second in command.
Boy, I'd really have to stop and think. It's like a lot of times that would be like in the movie when you have the abusive prison guard who's really working under the criminal warden, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, like a Shawshank or Green Mile.
Yeah. Like it's like those that dynamic comes up in so many movies, but that's the kind of thing that springs to mind. That's tough. But I gotta say, Powers Booth, I liked his character a lot. I mean, I hated him, but I like the depiction. I think it's a great character depiction on screen. He's got a lot of charisma. He's wearing some showier shirts than everyone. That's a tough character to pull off on screen.
Yeah, and he pulls. You're right. He does. He has a menace to him, but he also has a sophistication to him. And, I mean, he keeps. I don't know why he keeps Ike around. I'd want to keep smarter people. But no, you're right.
Ike might be a coward, but he's viciously loyal when the odds are in their favor. And when you're one of those cowboys, the odds are usually in your favor.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's another good loyalist to have around because his confidence is predicated on the number of other cowboys there. So he's always going to pull out a gun. He's not going to run until his life is actually threatened. And again, most of the time, they're outnumbering everybody. They're outgunning everybody.
And what do you call it? Like it's an army until someone's tougher than them, I guess, and they kind of fall apart.
Right, but I mean he's a good classic trustworthy henchman in that sense.
Slimy,
right?
Unkempt, keeps getting away. I get you have a lot of those. I mean, in The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, right? You have that guy that keeps running away. Yeah, so I get he works. He works. I liked. I want to move on. Do you think Billy Bob Thornton was going to light Kurt Russell up, wasn't he?
You think I think he probably thought I think he was always on the edge of it.
Yeah, when he was walking with that shotgun up behind him.
Oh yeah. But again, it's like everything about that character. I think that he is a bully, but I think he's a tough bully, not a normal like coward when confronted bully. It's just that he was met with like a Marvel superhero in this time.
Oh, it's like the Bulls when they were winning all the championships and the Jazz couldn't beat them. Or Andy Roddick when he kept getting beat by Federer in tennis.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, it's like, just imagine you're in that situation too. I mean, Kurt Russell is not a titan of a physical human being compared to Billy Bob Thornton, at least back then, right? It's not like there's some huge size dynamic. And this is a time of guns, and they are both wearing one. And he bitch slaps him. And his face, it's not that he's crushed or now he's a coward. It was almost he was appalled. He was shocked. Mm-hmm. And then he gets his muster after like a second of staring, and he starts threatening him again, and he slaps him again. Like these are things that, like it's almost like when the T-800 gets slammed really hard and it's processing. Like it just he didn't know how to respond to this level of confrontation.
And have you know when someone's just said something to you and it's just maybe so extreme or it doesn't make sense where you have no comeback?
Right. Again, you're stunned.
Did that just wait? Yeah, no, you broke that down also. I love that.
But I mean, he had to get hit 3 times. And when Kurt Russell says, "Go ahead, draw," see what, like he's got a little shake to him. It's almost like in his head. He's almost thinking of doing it, but he's not doing it. Like he's all over the place. He's ready to burst, and he just happened not to that day.
And a lot of this casting was credit to Kevin Jarre, where he would he cast everybody, and a lot of these people were his friends. Michael Biehn was his friend, so even though he got booted from the project, he brought in a heck of a cast, huh?
Dude, such a cast.
And I'll tell you some cool. Can I tell you something real cool?
Yeah.
All right, so the cinematographer of this. He also shot Bullet, the Steve McQueen classic, with one of the greatest car chases ever, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Rosemary's Baby.
Interesting.
And War Games. So this guy is one of the best cinematographers working who shot this movie. And that's why it looks good. I wouldn't say there was never a shot that blew my mind, which is weird. No, shots really shouldn't blow my mind. You watch some movies and I don't think this movie had the time to set up anything super beautiful. So that's a wrong statement. I think this movie uses very economical and very good camera work. It just looks good. And do you think Westerns age better because they're just period pieces? So you make a Western in 1996, you make a Western today, it's not like the cars are outdated or, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I wonder if that's helped.
And the action was just ambitious enough for its time that it doesn't feel like that kind of old stupid act. You know what I'm talking about. The stunts just seem almost phoned in by comparison sometimes when you get into the older stuff. But no, the action generally works. There's one moment in the action that I think is dumb.
The horse?
No, when Virgil bonks Ike on the head, you can actually see in the take that they used that Sam Elliott almost like dropped a gun in the act, and he hit the guy so light.
Yeah, Kurt Russell bonked another guy too. There's 2 head bonks in this movie.
Right, but there's like one moment, and I only noticed because I've seen it so many times in such a short period of time lately. But again, like it all really holds up. And the other thing that I think older movies, suffer from, regardless of genre, a little bit is pacing. Mm-hmm. They're usually longer shots. They linger on things longer. They'll show more of something that would normally get cut out now. Like someone walking to a car, getting into a car, starting a car, and driving the car off. That's something that you almost never see now unless there's something really substantial to it. And I feel like a lot of, whether it's a horror movie, an action movie, or a drama, most movies made in 1980 that are 90 minutes, I feel like should have been 70 minutes.
Yeah. So how do you feel about this one?
This movie doesn't have any of that. It seems really cleanly edited. But again, I mean, this was early/mid 90s. But again, I think it does a better job than a lot of other movies of its era.
It was supposed to be it was supposed to be a much longer movie. Sorry to interrupt. So Kurt Russell and the director had to pare it down. So it was like a 2.5 hour movie that they cut down a lot.
I think it's pretty. What is it? 2 hours and 8 minutes? Is that?
Yeah, but it was. But I think they hacked off like a half hour.
Well, whatever they did, it's very well manicured. And it doesn't feel long to me.
No,
that's another thing. It's well paced.
The tension's there when Bill Paxton we haven't even talked about Bill Paxton when he gets shot. Now, one more thing before I forget. Catherine Hardwicke was the production designer on this, and I don't know if you know that name, but she did Tank Girl, she did Vanilla Sky, Posse. She did Posse.
What does she do? What does she do?
So she was a production designer. She also did I'm Gonna Get You, Sucka. But she moved on to direct Twilight and Red Riding Hood. So the production designer, she designed the set, she built the sets, she worked with all the prop departments. Like she was the main person who designed everything in this. So she worked with the director and producers to create everything. I mean, they probably had that backdrop from Posse. But she did Posse. She moved from Posse to this. So I think that's pretty interesting. And then she went and directed Twilight.
That's another thing that makes this movie hold up, by the way. I didn't even think of it until you said it. When you see these bars, right, and they're gambling, they have all stuff up, all the well, I guess she's not wardrobe, but all the wardrobing, all the props, all the chairs. Like, there's a lot of detail in these bars going on. Like a lot of movies, they kind of will kind of hand wave because they know that you're paying attention to the stars or the action on the screen. And things will seem almost like barren by comparison, especially if it's not a mega budget movie of its time. And this isn't that. Like this was probably built up from very little.
Yeah, there's one scene, though, where there's a very fake-looking building in the background. It got a little distracting. Maybe I can show you a picture. But there's one thing that's just, you can tell it's just the front of a building.
It's just like a prop up, like from a Hollywood set?
From Blazing Saddles. And it's just the front of a building. And they keep the camera on it for a long time. And you're like, get it off of that. Get it off of that. But other than that, man, it looks beautiful. Like the set design, geez Louise. Great looking movie. I mean, they had talent everywhere in this film working on it. I
think they did a good job painting the world for us. In the beginning, the little narration they give us about that point in history and how life was around there. Because sometimes you see a movie and if you don't know Westerns or if you don't know the era, like you'll be like, why are they wearing those frilly shirts? And one line in the exposition well placed. We even had stores bringing all the newest French apparels out, like things. So like they do a good job putting us in that time. And show me, don't tell me is always the name of the game. And this movie does a lot of that. But some things need a little explanation. And that's one of those things that I think people benefit from a little exposition. So the exposition they give is really good about the world. When they explain things about the world, when the marshal is explaining about the cowboys, which is the equivalent in this movie of an exposition dump, but it's tactful, it's pithy. It didn't feel like a throwaway just to give us information for the sake of giving us information.
And there's a background scene where it's saying equal pay for, like, remember the women on the horse and buggy, equal pay for women.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, so it's this town that it's trying to modernized, but it's also during this time where it was the Wild West.